I'm a 31-year-old man who works as a mechanic. It's not a glamorous job, but I take a great deal of pride in it. Growing up, I watched my dad fix cars, and from there, I learned the ropes. I attended trade school, got certified, and now own my own small repair shop. It's honest work that pays the bills, and most importantly, it's something I love. I've always believed that passion and hard work count for more than any title or corporate prestige. That's why what happened at my fiancée's office party was so devastating. My ex-fiancée, who I'll call F, has always been surrounded by people who value appearances, given her career in corporate marketing. She'd always told me how much she admired my work ethic and my dedication to my craft, which made me feel like there was something special about our connection. But when we went to her company's holiday party a few weeks ago, that illusion was shattered. The event was held in an ultramodern office building where everyone seemed to have stepped out of a fashion magazine. F fit right in, effortlessly joking and chatting with her colleagues. Meanwhile, I felt out of place in my simple attire, knowing I wasn't part of that world. Still, I told myself I was there for her, to support her and be by her side. About an hour into the celebration, things started to take a turn. One of F's colleagues, a guy who looked like he had been born in a boardroom, asked me what I did for a living as we were being introduced. "I own a little car repair shop," I said. Before I could elaborate further, F jumped in, calling it adorable and laughing. "Then," she added, "he resembles a contemporary verdant monkey." Her co-workers burst out laughing. My face went pale with shock, and I shot F a look, but she shrugged it off and said, "It's just a joke. Calm down a little." But I couldn't shake the sting. It wasn't just a joke. It felt like she had trivialized my profession, something I take immense pride in, reducing it to something laughable. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting, but deep down, I was hurt. Later that evening, during a toast, F raised her glass to her team's accomplishments. Then, the conversation suddenly shifted to me. "I want to thank my fiancé," she said with a bright smile. "He may not be very corporate, but he's incredibly skilled with his hands. You've got his number if anyone needs their car fixed." The room erupted in laughter. People looked at me with contempt, their smiles hidden behind the mockery. I could feel my face flush with embarrassment, while F stood there, pleased with herself, basking in the attention. The laughter seemed to echo in my ears as I sat in humiliation. After the laughter died down, I met F's gaze and asked quietly, "Do you not notice how uncomfortable this makes me? Or worse, do you not care?" She was too busy enjoying herself to take it seriously. It was clear that she didn't understand or care about how her words had affected me. I needed some air, so I stepped outside, desperate to clear my mind, but the sound of their laughter kept replaying in my head. A few minutes later, F came out, wine glass in hand. "There you are," she said casually. "Why did you bolt?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but I couldn't help the frustration that seeped through. "Can you understand how humiliating that was?" I asked. She blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" she asked. I repeated what had happened, explaining how she had painted me as just a handyman to be called when needed, nothing more. She laughed it off as if I was overreacting, but the hurt lingered. "It was just a joke," she said dismissively. I was trying to lighten the mood. But this wasn't the first time she'd made similar comments. I had let it slide before, but this time, it was different. Her remarks weren't harmless. They felt like a subtle jab at who I am and what I do. "This is not okay," I said, trying to remain calm. "You've belittled my work, and you've done it in front of people who don't even know me. You say you admire my passion, but you don't seem to value it at all." She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "You're being too dramatic. It was just a little poke. If you can't take a joke, that's your problem." In that moment, I realized the gulf between us. She couldn't see me for who I was. I wasn't just the guy who fixed cars. I was someone who poured heart and soul into his work. But she couldn't understand that. I took a deep breath and spoke firmly, "This is too much for me. I can't do this anymore." The shock on her face was palpable. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice laced with disbelief. With that, I ended it. The relationship had become too much of a strain, and I knew I deserved better than to be treated like a punchline. I had always been proud of my work as a mechanic. It may not have been glamorous or corporate, but it was honest, and it was something I loved. I spent my youth learning from my father, fixing cars together. I went to trade school, got certified, and eventually opened my own little shop. It wasn't about the money, it was about doing something I truly believed in. That's why it hurt so much when, at my fiancée's office party, she made a comment that revealed how little she truly understood or valued me. My fiancée, whom I'll call F, had always been surrounded by people who placed value on outward appearances. She worked in corporate marketing, where status was everything, and I, with my mechanic's hands, often felt like an outsider. Despite that, I believed we had something unique. She often spoke of how much she admired my work ethic and my passion for what I did. That's what made her remark at the holiday party so painful. It was more than a joke, it was a reflection of how she truly saw me. When I arrived at the party, I knew I'd feel out of place. Everyone there seemed to belong to a different world, polished, well-dressed, confident. F fit right in, chatting effortlessly with her colleagues, while I struggled to fit in. I tried not to let it bother me, telling myself I was there for her, not for them. But then, during a round of introductions, one of her colleagues asked what I did. I own a little car repair shop, I said, proud of the work I'd built. But before I could say more, F interrupted, calling it adorable and laughing. He resembles a contemporary verdant monkey, she added, and the room burst into laughter. I was stunned, frozen. She shrugged it off, as though it was no big deal, but I couldn't shake the sting. My career, my passion, my life's work had become the punchline of a joke. That wasn't the worst of it. Later that evening, as everyone gathered for a toast, F stood up and began to raise her glass to her team. Then, out of nowhere, she made a point of mentioning me. I want to thank my fiancé, she said with a smile. He may not be very corporate, but he's great with his hands. You have his number if you ever need your car fixed. The laughter that followed was deafening, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. F beamed, clearly enjoying the attention. But I was humiliated. The laughter echoed in my ears, and my face turned crimson. I was being reduced to nothing more than a joke. It wasn't just the remark, it was the way she dismissed everything I'd worked so hard for, making it sound like nothing more than a trivial hobby. I left the table and stepped outside to gather myself. I needed some air, but the sting of her words wouldn't leave me. She followed me outside, her wineglass in hand. "There you are," she said, sounding casual. "Why'd you bolt?" I looked at her, trying to keep my composure. "Can you understand how humiliating that was?" I asked quietly. She didn't seem to get it. "It was just a joke," she said, as if that would make it better. But I had heard that excuse before, and it never sat right with me. "No," I said, my voice steady but firm. "It's how you see me. How you've always seen me. And I can't be with someone who doesn't value what I do." Her expression shifted from confusion to anger. "Fixing cars makes you feel special, doesn't it?" "Newsflash, it's not that remarkable," she snapped. The words cut deep, but in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I reached for the engagement ring, removed it from my finger, and handed it to her. "It seems that discovering someone who truly values you can be a challenge," I said, before turning to leave. Despite the chaos I knew would follow, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I wasn't worried about what anyone would think. No one had the right to treat me like that, especially not someone who claimed to love me. I gathered my coat and began to walk toward the door, ready to leave. F rushed up behind me, desperate now. "You're really going to make a scene," she hissed, her voice barely audible. "You did that all on your own," I said calmly. "Enjoy the rest of your party." The tension in the room was palpable, and people started noticing. Whispers began circulating, but I didn't care. F's desperation grew as she grabbed my arm. "Let's talk about this," she pleaded. "You're blowing things out of proportion." I turned to face her. "I gave you chances to respect me, to value my work. But you didn't. This conversation isn't going to fix anything." And with that, I walked out, leaving her standing there holding the ring. The drive home was quiet. I was processing the mix of relief and frustration, but I knew I had made the right choice. Over the next few days, the calls and texts came in. Friends were confused, asking what had happened. F wasted no time spreading her version of the story, claiming she was just joking and that I couldn't handle it. She even posted in a group chat, calling me overly sensitive. But I wasn't going to let her control the narrative. I quietly spoke to friends, co-workers, and even strangers who had been at the party, giving them my side of things. I explained how that party wasn't the first time she'd belittled me, how it had been a pattern of disrespect. The response was overwhelmingly sympathetic, and a few even apologized for laughing at the toast. I learned that F had been making similar remarks behind my back, boasting about how she had settled for me, believing I would be easy to control. It was painful to hear, but it confirmed everything I had suspected. When I was contacted by her boss about her behavior at the party, I shared my version of events. Her boss assured me that they would take care of it internally. Later, I learned that F didn't get the promotion she had been hoping for. Her behavior had caught up with her. As for me, I threw myself into my work. Without the constant judgment, I started taking on more challenging tasks at my shop, improving my skills, and even mentoring aspiring mechanics on weekends. I sold the engagement ring and used the proceeds for a much-needed vacation. Looking back, I see that the toast wasn't the sole reason for our breakup. It was the culmination of everything that had come before, the realization that she saw me not as a partner, but as something to be ridiculed and controlled. That wasn't love. Love is about respect, partnership, and mutual support, not tearing someone down for a cheap laugh. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you're being belittled or undervalued, take it as a sign. Walk away. You deserve better.